This episode is brought to you by iZotope. Our friends over at iZotope create the most thoughtfully and intuitively designed software for audio repair, mixing, and mastering. I use their tools every day for the podcast, and I love it. And I think you will too. Go over to iZotope.com and check it out. That's iZotope.com. iZotope. Use the code FRET10 at checkout for a 10% discount. That's all caps, FRET, and the number 10. The second single from Future Prophet Records is here. Birthday Girl presents Never the Sound, available right now on Future Prophet Records. That's Future, PROPHET, records.com. Order now.
There was camaraderie. Everybody was competing, but we would all talk to each other because you got to talk to somebody. You won't be able to steal from them, right?
Right.
You couldn't jockey in there unless you were in there.
Right.
So you had to put up with girlfriends and wives. It's like you had to put up with parents in high school with a big-titted girl's mom and dad. You had to talk about Jesus with them so you could fuck her, and that kind of shit. It's the same thing in life. You have to eat some shit before you can suck some tits. And that was the whole point of this Beach Boy campaign, which was to infiltrate, use the very snobbery of England and the very busybody aspect of their culture. And I mean, if you say, well, what do you think? Nobody would have known, but the Beatles like it, therefore we love it.
Right.
Welcome to another episode of Discograffiti's wildly in-depth Beach Boys series and Your Dreams Come True, where Brian Wilson freaks like you and me get our chance to delve deep into the barely believable history and prodigious discography of my favorite band of all time, and also coincidentally the best, along with a slew of over 50 top-shelf guests, ranging from musicians inspired by their work, family members, documentary directors, songwriting collaborators, Beach Boys authors, producers, touring band members, and for good measure, some of the Beach Boys themselves. I'm your host, Dave Gebrow, and special thanks goes out to co-producers Chuck Granata, Dennis Dykin, and Mark Freed, without whom this series would not have happened. And in this episode, we'll be turning our spray cans on the Beach Boys' Pet Sounds, along with our special guest, KIM FOWLEY! In this episode, we feature the very special next entry in the Chuck Granata Pet Sounds interview series. It's Chuck's chat with legendary producer, songwriter, musician, and self-described rock and roll creep and lord of garbage, KIM FOWLEY. He's been described as one of the most colorful characters in the annals of rock and roll, and that is truly putting it mildly. Although admittedly he is always in rare form, I can definitely confirm having had a relationship with him toward the end of his life. He is in the rarest of rare forms in this interview, barely allowing Chuck to get a word in edgewise. The dynamic is delightful right from the off. He is the single common denominator that links Alley Oop, Cat Stevens, The Soft Machine, Bruce Johnston, Kiss, Helen Reddy, John Lennon, Ariel Pink, The Byrds, Motley Crue, Frank Zappa, The Modern Lovers, Alice Cooper, Warren Zevon, The Runaways, and the concept of raising a lighter at a concert. Although this chat careens maniacally off the rails, the main topic of conversation centers on Kim's plan to pave the way for Pet Sounds to make a huge splash amongst the British press and pop star aristocracy. Kim passed away a few years later in 2015, which makes this posthumously released Chuck Chat yet another priceless buried treasure. For over 4 years now, Discograffiti's Friday episodes have been completely free, and it's been my pleasure. But for a variety of reasons, Discograffiti's now moved to the subscription-based Patreon as our primary platform. Moving forward, our public stream will feature a teaser of the Friday episode and a Tuesday teaser of the bonus episode, and that's all. But here's the good news. Only $5 a month will get you the weekly Friday podcast to which you become accustomed. That's it. It's a no-brainer at just $1 an episode. And just that little bit will be what's required to help the show survive. To sweeten the pot, you'll also get regular installments of the Discograffiti Soldiers of Sound podcast. That's Rudy Fishman's podcast within a podcast featuring our Patreon members as guests. You'll also get access to over 100 back episodes of that show. The $10 Lieutenant tier gets you all that, plus access to half of the Patreon archive. That's hundreds of additional episodes, plus copies of my personal show notes, which include invaluable research, star ratings, and reviews. But the $20 major tier is the place to be, unless you can support the show on even higher tiers, which, if you can afford it, offers substantial perks, including advertising on the show and selecting the guests and artists I cover. With the major tier and above, you get it all. The Monday bonus episodes, aka the best stuff, the Friday show, the Soldiers of Sound podcast, plus access to the entire archive. That's many hundreds of Patreon episodes, an absolutely endless barrage of music entertainment, including 50 episodes of The Private Press with Paul Major, Rock Cousteau, Queasy Listening, and so much more. Frankly, it'll keep you busy for the rest of your life. So support the podcast that's been supporting you for years. Discograffiti's calling, and it needs you. So don't risk feeling guilty by not giving. But enough of me yapping. Go on, subscribe now. Visit patreon.com/discograffiti and find the tier that's right for you. And away we go then! All right, so before we start the interview proper, I want to just take a side swivel here. I'm actually here with Joe Kennedy, original OG of the Discograffiti'ville universe.
Hey, everybody.
And he's got a little bit of Kim Fowleyania, Kim Fowleyana, like
Kim
Americana. Okay, I will take that. Interestingly, you and I both kind of got pulled into the Kim Fowley universe. You first, toward the very end of his life, and I think you've got some information up your sleeve that's worthy of dissemination before we actually delve into the interview. So, Joe, why don't you take it and explain exactly the context here?
Well, I never met Kim Fowley, but I do have a couple of co-writes with him, which I can sort of explain. So when, I used to tour and record with the artist Ariel Pink, and when we were finishing the cycle of this is actually the second record I toured with him, which was Mature Themes. It was time to go in and start making the next record. And it turned out that Ariel had been in touch with Kim, and they were going to try to write together. And at the time, it was supposed to be, I think, it was going to be like a joint project. That was one of the things that they thought it might be, an Ariel Pink, Kim Fowley album. Or an EP or something that was going to be branded like that. So they went in, Ariel went in to see him, and Kim was at some sort of like hospice type facility. He was in some sort of like healthcare facility where he was sort of living. As he was, his health was failing him. So Ariel goes in to meet him and had brought a guitar, and they were going to kind of try to sit and write. Kim's in his hospital bed. They make small talk for a while, and then Kim is like, hey, show me, we'll play some chords or something. Let's try to do a little bit of writing. And, Ariel's not the most accomplished, guitarist. He can play some chords, but he's not really that's kind of not really how he works, sitting down and writing like that. They were trying for a while, and it just kind of wasn't clicking. So at one point, Ariel's like, you know what? This isn't really work. Let's try something else. I'm just going to turn my phone on, and you just free associate. Just say a bunch of stuff into the phone, sing some ideas. Just give me a bunch of ideas to work with. And we'll see how that goes. So he turns on his phone and hits record. And Kim goes into sort of a long, I want to say it was maybe 20 minutes, kind of free association ramble of song ideas and lyrics and absurdities. And the first words out of his mouth ended up being the first lyric that's on the Pom Pom album, from the song Plastic Raincoats in the Pig Parade. The lyric is, this is secondhand, me imitating Ariel, imitating Kim, of how he said it. The sky is black and white and polka dotted. It must have been an Ariel day. Which was the first lyric on the album, and also the first song we recorded. And at the end of that session, that free association session, I know for sure that song, Plastic Raincoats in the Pig Parade, Nude Beach A Go-Go was another one that he kind of just came up with off the top of his head. Jello. There's a bit at the end of the song Jello where Ariel says Jerry's Delicatessen in West Hollywood, they have the best Jello in town, which is a direct quote from Kim talking about the Jello.
The amazing thing about his contributions, because Pom Pom, and during that era I was managing Ariel Ariel, although, I use that term very, very loosely. But the interesting thing about Kim's contributions is that, even though it was only maybe 15% of the tracks
I think it ended up being 5 songs came out of that initial session.
Okay, so maybe like a third or a fourth, somewhere between that, is that the whole thing, it has such a strong aesthetic to those tracks. It's so distinct, and it feels like such a, sort of an accumulation and an apotheosis of all the work that Kim had done over the years, that it feels like it touches all the things Kim didn't have anything to do with. It really kind of lords over the tone of the record.
Yeah, so the other 2 songs that Kim inspired and kind of gave the lyric inspiration for are the 2 that I co-wrote with him, which was Sexual Athletics and Exile on Frog Street. So there were those 5 that came directly from Kim's free association thing. And then Ariel went and made a demo with those 5 plus 3 other songs, which I believe were Negative Ed and One Summer Night.
God, I love Negative Ed.
There was one other one. There were 8. I know for sure there were 8. And that became the sort of founding document of the album Pom Pom. When you factor in 8 of them, that's almost like half of the record, really.
Incredible that in just 20 minutes of real time, not even thought through, just laying it down completely in the moment, you get the basis for and half of a double album. Amazing.
Yeah. When the record came out, it was kind of a lengthy process recording it. So that was the very first session for anything Pom Pom related, was that session with Kim. I feel like maybe a month or so later, we went in to a studio and recorded basic tracks for most of those songs, some of which survived and then some of them were re-recorded. And then it was maybe like a year of working on Pom Pom and recording it, and at which point Kim's health had gotten a lot worse. So when the record was released, Pitchfork was going to do something, a whole retrospective on Kim and a whole article about Ariel and Kim. And it turned out Kim died I think the week before the record came out, right around when the record came out, he passed away. And then after he passed away, Jackie Fuchs came out with her revelations that Kim had sexually assaulted her. Credible allegations, I should say.
Yeah, definitely.
She seems like a very credible individual.
And to be fair, Kim does not shy away from projecting the image of a rapist.
Yeah,
he definitely seems like the rapiest raper that is out there.
Well, he's no longer with us, so I guess he can't defend himself or whatever. But yeah, his track record does not exactly inspire a lot of confidence in his behavior. He was, he was a problematic individual.
Absolutely.
At best.
Yes.
It's a generous way of describing him.
Yeah.
So Pitchfork ended up kind of spiking the story. Everybody kind of breathed a sigh of relief. This kind of goes to show you this sort of controversy and stuff that always seemed to follow Ariel around.
Which he courted.
Well, yeah, because then Pom Pom came out and there was just, even without the Kim Fowley stuff, there was other controversy that ended up kind of derailing the promotion of that record. And all of this is before all of the January 6th stuff and all that. That happened years later. So anyway, his legacy, I think Kim's fingerprints are really pretty, that was the last thing he did. Really kind of Kim's last major creative collaboration. And
I have to say, some of my favorite stuff he's ever done, and he's done a lot. His fingerprints are on almost everything in rock history, and in a lot of ways, most lucidly on this.
Yeah, and I think that record has sort of a spirit, and even the follow-up to it, the dedicated to Bobby Jameson album, has a spirit of that kind of late night scuzzy LA of a different time. This sort of gutter LA, it just has that feel to it that I think Kim really embodied. I think it even carried over into the next record, which is kind of like a Pom Pom Junior, at least in sort of subject matter and style and stuff. So
it feels like you're seeing double at Cantor's late night.
Right? Yeah, right.
Well, Joe, thank you so much for coming on and explaining that. I think that provides incredible context for us to launch into this interview that Chuck did with Kim Fowley back in the early 2000s. And so let's then launch into the interview proper. And away we go then.
Yes.
Hi, Kim.
Who's this?
This is Chuck Granata. How are you?
I'm alive.
All right, that about does it. To hear the full episode, just visit patreon.com/discograffiti and either subscribe as a private or higher, or just purchase it as a one-off. If you are a fan of the show, please do one of those two to help ensure Discograffiti's continued existence. Stay tuned, because next week brings upon us the next episode in our Graham Nash series. This one, a deep dive discussion of the debut release of Crosby and Nash. Okay, here's the week up ahead. This Sunday, our weekly show within a show, the Discograffiti Soldiers of Sound podcast, drops for our Patreon's private tier. These are real people with talent and a burning fire deep inside, just like you and I. Then, come Tuesday, the major tier gets a very special treat. Tuesday's bonus episode is part 7 of our Spirit series, covering the wildly prolific and diverse years at the end of Spirit's Mercury Records era, which included a reunion of the classic era lineup and the absolute peak of Randy California's loner recording weirdness. There will be a very short sneak peek running publicly for free on Tuesday morning, but the entirety of the show will only be accessible on the major tier of our Patreon. A heartfelt Discograffiti thanks goes out to my beautiful wife and son, Jen and Mason, Kim Fowley, Chuck Granata, Rudy Fishman, Becky Boyd, my mom, my dad, my incredibly loyal fans, and especially the entire Patreon community, the Soldiers of Sound. I love every last one of you, and this show would not exist without you, my friends. Speaking of friends, it's high time for some new ones. They're in our Facebook group, Discograffiti Soldiers of Sound. That's the best way to find out what's coming up on the show, but there's a hell of a lot more. You get recaps of the day in music history, the ability to pitch questions to guests, polls that put you in the driver's seat on guest and band decisions, and access to a thriving creative hub if you're looking for a collaborator. So make sure you don't miss out. You can find the link to the Discograffiti Soldiers of Sound Facebook page right there in the show notes. And if you don't mess with the Zuck, no sweat. Just email me at info@discograffiti.com and I'll keep you in the loop. So now that it's done and you want more, another way to dive even deeper into the classic rock and roll from the 1960s is to go to the Beach Boys Season 1, Catch a Wave, 1961 to 1964, from episode 189 on, the Righteous Brothers Bill Medley interview, that's 181 and 182, my interview with the Free Design, that's 160 to 162, my epic interview with the Mamas and Papas Michelle Phillips, that's 141 to 159, Blood, Sweat, and Tears, that's 137, my 12-hour interview with Terry Kirkman and Jules Alexander from The Association, that's 109 to 113, Vashti Bunyan reading her entire output, that's 103 to 104. Sergio Diaz from Os Mutantes, that's 86 and 87. Bert Summer, that's 83 and 84. Sweetwater is episode 79. A tribute to David Crosby, 77 and 78. Andrew Tuttle rates the Monks, 74. Jim Florentine on Black Sabbath is 64 to 68. Lou Barlow on the Zombies is 59 and 60. Marvin Gaye biographer David Ritz rates Marvin Gaye, that's 45 to 47. Blind Faith is 43. Anthony Fantano rates the Velvet Underground, it's 32 and 33. Bob Forrest rates the band is 25 and 27. Monkees manager Andrew Sandoval rates the Monkees, that's 22 and 23. Don Randy rates David Axelrod as 17. Badfinger is 16. The Bee Gees is 10 and 11. Sly and the Family Stone is 5, 6, and 7. And Pink Floyd is 1 and 2. And of course, be sure to mark your calendars, because next Friday, February 27th, we're coming at you with Graham Nash's God's Honest Assessment of Crosby and Nash's 1972 debut platter. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss it. And so, from now till then, don't let our youth go to waste, lads and ladies. It's Discograffiti!